Hi, my name is Joao Lafraia. I'm president of Abrama and general manager of Petrobras, taking care of asset management efficiency. We are going to talk about leadership and culture and how those things relate to asset management in general, how they build together a culture that improves the result of our companies.
Yeah, it is.
It is indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I would like to thank the IM Institute, Richard and David, for inviting me. It's an honor to talk to you. A little bit of my history. I started as an engineer at one refinery in Brazil. Then I decided to study fracture mechanics. I came to UK. I lived in Cranfield for 1 year and a half. For me, it was a wonderful time. I came with my wife, and being back is a pleasure to meet the country again. So I'm very happy to be with you. Thank you very much. And after that period here, I decided to go to management. From inspection for maintenance, I went straight to head of operations in a refinery in Paraná. And so I changed a little bit, and I start thinking that doing things different from management and leading people. So I realized that at that time I should improve my leadership skills, and I find some different styles and some different way of thinking. So that's why leadership and culture during this period has been a challenge for me, and I hired an anthropologist to be my coach and to teach me, because I'm not a anthropologist by degree, and those people guide me during this period. And what I'm going to show you is my findings in how important leadership and culture are for asset management. As John pointed out, the technical stuff is fairly easy to understand. But how do you implement it in a worldwide company or in a company that has multiple sites? It's very interesting. After being promoted to general manager in a refinery in São Paulo, Brazil is a large country, but the culture is almost the same. One thing that worked in one refinery didn't work in another. So we should study what was the cause of that behavior, why one thing is not working. And then we came across the culture and leadership style and the culture stuff. I know culture is very delicate to talk about, but anyway, it's very important to understand how to form a asset management culture. We've been discussing, sorry, let me use my presentation. Okay. I'm going to talk about some definitions. I will skip that very fast because John's introduction is very powerful. I know he talks very easily about asset management. So the stuff I'm going to present here are almost the same as John, but from an oil and gas industry. He talks from the perspective of an energy company, but it's similar. And the point I would like to emphasize are the aspect of cultural leadership. Okay? That's the point I want to make. Let's go. I'm president of Abrama, is Brazilian Association of Maintenance and now Asset Management. I think it's very important for us to realize that maintenance is still a core knowledge, a core competence in asset management, at least from the point of view of energy and oil companies, because maintenance structure a whole system of assets together. So what we are trying to do is not forget maintenance, because it's still a word that has to be reconciled with financial terms, with leadership and other stuff. And we are also part of Global Forum. So thanks for the Global Forum, because there is a program in the Global Forum for us to share ideas, to share different thoughts, and to come up with a model that can be used around the world. So the Global Forum is very important for asset management. John has been doing a wonderful job leading it, and I can speak to you from the perspective of a group John is a great leader. So we can understand how a culture is changing. He's in charge of his company, and with his passion, his knowledge about the subject, he's influenced a lot of people in changing the way things are done. So culture and leadership is very important, and I emphasize that during our talk in the Global Forum. Just to make a fine decision, I think asset management is a new paradigm. It's not a way of managing assets. Is it correct, Celso? It's a way of leading business from a different perspective. When you change paradigms, when you change things, leadership is very important. And understanding culture is even as important as leadership. This is the basic asset life as John showed. I just put it in a different perspective from oil and gas perspective. We function based operation. When there is an operation, there is a failure, then you have to maintain, you have to fix, and to kill the bugs. The problem is how to do that. You have to set up a reliability program for that. And the reliability program is really essential for us to kill all the bugs. Okay? And I think that's a core. There is one missing, I don't know, there's a bug here. Okay? Let me try to fix. Oh, it's missing. But what reliability in asset management does is to integrate the whole cycle. But it's more easy to say than to do, as John mentioned and presented the case. So asset management is about linking decisions of the overall business objectives. That's an integrated way of managing your system. As John pointed out, it's easy to talk about it, but it's very hard to carry out and put system in place and to achieve a really good result using those concepts. I think this is a key issue for asset management. Those four are the pillars or the foundations on which we should work. Leadership, a management system, the physical assets themselves, data and maintenance, and people in reliability. Those two sides are very soft indeed. It's not easy for engineers to talk about. It's not easy for a manager to talk about. Those sides are the hard sides, but they need to be integrated for us to achieve excellence. And nowadays, I'm general manager. I was invited to be a general manager of headquarters in Petrobras to achieve operational excellence. And that's a challenge because now we have 13 refineries, we have 13 ways of doing things, 13 leadership styles. There is a management system that is fairly standardized, but there has difference that produce different results. And we have a lot of different assets. How do we put all together and produce results? That's the question. I'm not going to talk about that, but the key principles for asset management: sustainable, holistic, systematic, systemic, risk-based, and optimal. You know, those key concepts are much more a paradigm than words. You have to put that into people's behavior in the field. How do you do that? That's what we are going to discuss briefly here. This is the management system. There is a huge discussion going on about PAS 55, what it is, what is asset management. I think it's a key issue. The asset management system is very important for us to understand. But, at least from my perspective, management is one part of the solution. Management system will put you in a command and control planning mode. You're going to set up a system that it will work, but without leadership, vision, communication, and dealing with culture, the change will not be sustained. It will start here, but if you don't take into account your leadership and culture, what is going to be in the future, I think it will tend to be bureaucracy. People will do things using your system, but not from the heart, not from the soul. And when you hear John Hardwick talking with his passion, the way he communicates, he's really at this side of the chart. His communication, innovation, strategy, and visions. And so that has to work together. Leadership and management are two sides of the same coins. You cannot separate them. But as a coin, you can use always one side of it. So it will become biased. So we have to overcome that difficulty or that challenge using our leadership in a way that will produce the most effective result. So when we talk about asset management system, remember, from my perspective, we are here. We are going to promote a change, but it's not the end of the change. It's just the beginning. And to put people into perspective, I'm going to put a reliability chart. That's the condition of the assets during time. It will deteriorate. Then we have 4 phases. Defect starts, there is failure. We can identify the defects. There is a failure. In terms of reliability and maintenance, a failure is a loss in function. After that, if you carry on, the equipment will break. There will occur accidents, damage, and things like that. So what we want during our asset management system or reliability system is to prevent and to work at defect level. That's fairly easy to understand. This is the proactive zone. If you set up your maintenance plan here, you are going to avoid failures, you are going to avoid breaks. Breaks are 10 times more cost than failures and defects. Well, it's fairly easy to understand, but the problem is this pyramid. This is the Frankberg pyramid from HSE, or for Health, Safety, and Environmental Studies. At this side, at the safety model, you have lost day case, serious accidents, minor injuries, incidents, deviation in behaviors. This is a statistical pyramid. You have 10,000 times more incidents than you have injuries and accidents. That is recorded from the industry database. It's not a fixed model, but it's a statistical model that shows that as long as you have, I would say, not good behavior, we have to have errors in terms of reliability system. Errors will come up as defects. After that, you have failures. And if you don't treat failures, it will break. Then we have major shutdowns in your system, in your assets. But as you can see, the base for that is behaviors. And what drives behaviors? That's what my talk is about. Well, the top side, the hard side of asset management are the tangible initiatives we implement to improve our performance. There is the foundation, the leadership style, work process, structure. Those are more soft in terms of understanding, in terms of the quality of the talk, but still we can understand it from the engineering, or at least from the managerial point of view. But when you go deep, you start to work with organizational culture. What is that? It's too soft. It's too intangible for us to understand. But it's difficult, but we have to delve into it because it will promote different results and different outcomes from our efforts. So I want to start to talk a little bit in a simple way what culture is. So culture is a complex phenomenon. It's always be, but it can be understood from several different angles. What culture really are a lens that we put in front of our eyes and make us understand the world. So if you have these two drawings here, what a cow means in Brazil. It's cut in barbecues, you know? But if you go to India, what a cow means in India, it's a religious symbol. We are symbolic people. We are born without culture. And the way we interpret things depend on our culture. It's not so much in our education. You can understand what a cow is, but if you suffer from hunger problems, why don't you eat the cow? It's ingrained in the way people think. What I want to emphasize that different behaviors and different symbolic understanding are not wrong. They are just different. You have to be tolerant. If you are running a worldwide company, you have to understand that being different is not wrong. It's just different. So we have to be flexible to understand that concept. You understand the way the symbolic entities are used. When I say failure in one organization, the other one understands a different concept. When I talk about time with David, we are not wrong, we are different. The way we do that is just to understand. One other thing I would like to emphasize is that it's a warning. When you set up a worldwide standard, people will interpret the same letters, the same words in a different context. That's very important to understand. And the way we devised to study culture is to define what values are. They define how we act. What we appreciate are our values. How we do things from the heart. Culture is what you do when you forget about all you know. Throw out your standards and forget about what you have in place in your system. When you start to behave freely, that's what culture is about. So forget your standard, forget your PAS 55, ISO 5000, you know. The way you manage your asset is the way your culture is. So if you want to change that, you have to change values from people. You have to have in place good role models, behavior good model, that comes from leadership. You have to have in place good rites and rituals, how things are done all across the company. Thousands and thousands of small activities being led by people in those ways. You have your cultural infrastructure, gossips, the shop floor level talks, and the way people communicate in an informal way. So that's the cultural infrastructure. If we want to change culture, we have to understand that and work with them. Just one thing, when things break in your organization, if you have a reactive mode, you want a quick fix, and you reward your maintenance guys to have a quick fix regardless of reliability data, okay, you're establishing a role model. And it will reinforce your values, the way you carry out your maintenance, and that start to create a culture, regardless of the standard that you have in place. You know, leadership in front of those guys will promote that kind of system. Things break, you value a quick fix, you know. But if you're a manager or if you are a maintenance leader and ask people, before you fix it, let us look at the reliability data. Okay? You have to break the cycle and have to reward people from the point of view of doing that. Okay? You have to come up with some ideas. How do you do that? It's totally informal, you know. It's totally based on relationships. How to change culture? You have to change your rights. You have to change your values, what you appreciate. You have to change your models of behaving. You know? That's the way we change culture. Remember that culture is the last thing to change. It's not first. The first one is your behavior, your models. When you are not there, what is going to remain is what culture is about. Forget about what you have written, what you've spoken. What's being done in the field, in the asset floor area, is what culture is about. One way we come up, this is the cover of my book, and we discussed a lot with one anthropologist that I had, Mr. Carmen Miguelis, and I told her, how do we change that thing in a practical way? How can I explain that for an engineer, for a manager who has engineering background? And we come up with an idea of habitus. That's a word from the French anthropologist Pierre Bourdieu. And he says that the first step to change culture is become conscious of the invisible strings that move us. Culture are those strings that make us behave in some way. And the first step to change culture is to recognize those strings and to cut them. Use the scissor. We are born without culture. There is no reason why should I respect your time schedule, David. Okay? It's just a matter of learning. Okay? And if it's hindering our relationship, then I will decide to change. Okay? So, but we have to recognize that it's not wrong, it's different. It's a different string. It's wrong from one perspective. But being flexible may be useful from another perspective. You know? So that's what innovation is about, isn't it? That's what evolution is about. If you keep things at the same levels always, we are going to prevent innovation from occurring. Okay? So I like this quote from Frank Kane. Habits are safer than rules. You don't have to follow them. You don't have to keep them either. They keep you. So develop good habits. Habit is good practice in your organization. Devise good practice, good behavior model, good rituals and rites, you know, then we are going to start changing your culture. Okay? It's really a journey. It's not one single step. It's not one single bullet. I will not explain that slide, but what I would like to emphasize is that if you want to change things, you have your antecedents, your culture, your values. You behave certain ways. We humans always behave. Even when we don't behave, you are behaving. Standing still is behaving, okay? But we are always behaving. After that, we have the consequence. What motivates us are the consequences. Either we appreciate them or not, okay? But if you want to change your culture, you have to change the way people feel about the consequence, the results. The results of your behavior is what motivates people. Okay? The education, competence, training are at the communication is at this side. We start behaving. Depending on the consequence, we are going to change or not that behavior because we are going to change your antecedents, your intention. We are going to see that in the future. So the consequences, the result, the outcome of our behaviors is what counts. That's the most important part. How do you measure people? What are the key indicators? Not the formal ones, but the way you, as a manager, ask for results. How do you reward people? Not in the formal way, but during day-to-day conversation on the telephone, via email. What do you talk about? What do you how do you recognize? How do you emphasize the results? And remember, there is not good and bad consequences. They are just consequences, results. If you want to change your behavior, you have to change the way you interpret your results. Okay? One thing that I should emphasize, this is a behaviorist model. When you present that to anthropologists, you're a behaviorist, forget about that. I'm just showing a way of communicating with people some concepts that are not easily grasped. So what I put that in the middle of this concept is that culture drives our attitude. Attitude, the way you see the world. It's not the way you act. But the attitude is what moves you into intentions, and after that, you have your behavior. We normally judge others by their behaviors, ourselves by our intention. When I step on someone's toe, I talk to them, oh, sorry about that, but we are trying to say that my intention was not that. But we judge others by their behaviors. So intentions and attitudes and culture and values are very important for you to change your culture. And culture are values, models, behavior models, rites and rituals, talks, what's being written, the histories of the organization, the gossips, whatever it counts for changing these models. So when you change attitude, you change your intentions, then you start changing your behavior. At the end, we are going to change your culture. I'm going to be fast. So that's the main conclusion of my presentation. I'm not ending here, but leadership is the key issue for changing behavior and changing culture, either by establishing antecedents and establishing a consequence or a consequence system. Okay? So when I talk about leadership, I would delve into that. We are talking about power. Leadership is a process of exerting power. The French philosopher Michel Foucault says, nobody is, so to speak, its owner. And however, it always goes in some way, with someone groups in either side. It's clear who holds it, but it's not clear who doesn't. Who's in charge here? It speaks by itself. He's in charge. What is his tools? No, he has the power from the scenery. Okay, you know. So a power is a way of exerting our individuality. We are what you do, and when you talk about culture, sorry about that. And when you talk about leadership, I would like to emphasize that leadership is a process. When you're in a field fixing a pump, there is always a leader. What you do with that data, where do you put it, how do you value it, depends on the leadership. It's not the CEO of the company, but it's the field supervisor who has to understand the concept of asset management, to value the way people behave in the field in front of real assets, in front of the management system in place, how they value that. That's what leadership is about. Leadership is not a place, it's not a position. It's a way of promoting different behaviors, influencing people, exerting power. Okay? The leader is a person, but leadership is a function and a process that goes across the whole organization. And what I want to emphasize is that the key factor for changing culture is mindfulness, is focused attention. When you have a place where everyone does the right way, every task, all the time, you have the concept of operational discipline. That comes from the oil and gas industries. But how to change from a mindfulness concept or way of thinking and from complacency, just forget about things. You have to move people's hearts, and you have to address the soul of the company in order for them to have those asset management excellence in place. Okay? And leadership is the single largest factor for success, from my opinion. Okay? And leadership, executives, the manager, they have to lead, align, and cascade the asset management system. It's not about talking. It's about doing things, in communicating things with your soul. You have to be, in front of things. It's not going to happen by a standard. You have to be present. You have to talk. You have to convince. You have to enforce. You have to lead anyway. Okay? The other are going to work and comply with the requirement. But in order for that to occur, leaders and managers have to be aligned with the concept, with the key issues I pointed out. You know, leadership is a way of aligning those vectors, those forces, so that leadership is a magnet that aligns the driving force to develop asset management culture. Okay, and those models, the two most important thing for me is a leadership, a visible leadership and committed leadership. The way we talk about our project influence people very heavily, and line accountability. The way John talks here, I'm sure have a strong influence on the way people behave in the field. If he's coherent in his talk, in his way, the way he leads their group, I think that's very important. And remember that it's a journey. It's not one-step process. There is a lot of process that has to be accomplished in order to be excellent. You cannot earn a black belt, in Aikido black belt, just for starting training. It may take 10 years for you to develop the proper skill and practice in order for you to become a black belt. The same in terms of leadership and asset management excellence. It's a journey. And the step you are is not wrong. It's just different. You have to understand that. It's a step. Just that is a result of the system in place. If you want to improve, you have to stop judging it. It's not good enough, neither bad. It's just a result from the system that is being put to work. That is some result that we achieve. Lost day work and production increasing. The same as John. Reliability is increasing. Safety numbers are decreasing, and you are not investing. You are not applying capex to do that. Just changing in the way people behave. Just setting up a proper management system. Okay? That's the way I think it works and how powerful it is. So the asset management excellence culture journey is a process. You have to have four issues, key issues: a management system, a committed management system, effective physical assets, data, optioneering, and systems. You have to have a committed leadership. You have to have a mindful workforce. And that is the way I see things. Thank you for your time. If you have any question, I am at your disposal. Thank you very much.